Why, hi, Mac, and anyone who might be watching episode 104 of GRAMidei Reads Stories for Mac. Okay, like I said yesterday, if you didn't watch this, a mea culpa, because 2 days ago I thought that Yertle the Turtle only had one other story. I thought it was Gertrude McFuzz, and that was it. So I was given a hard time to the one and only famous Dr. Seuss because I said it should be other story. And now I feel like a total cotton headed ninny muggins because there are two other stories. So it's accurate. Yertle the Turtle and Other Stories by Dr. Seuss. Sorry, Dr. Seuss. So here is the third story. I realized when I scanned through the book, I saw the green and I thought it was the same green from her feather plume. And now I realized the publisher was just saving money on color ink and only printed in black, blue, and green. So here we go. Third story, which is The Big Brag. And if you hear a bunch of clickety clack, that's those dogs and their toenails. Can't decide if they want to stay or go. Here we go. The rabbit felt mighty important that day. On top of the hill in the sun where he lay, he felt so important up there on that hill that he started in bragging, as animals will, and he boasted out loud as he threw out his chest, "Of all of the beasts in the world, I'm the best. On land and on sea, even up in the sky, no animal lives who is better than I." Whew, that is a big boast for a rabbit. "What's that?" growled a voice that was terribly gruff. "Now, why do you say such ridiculous stuff?" The rabbit looked down and he saw a big bear. "I'm the best of the beasts," said the bear, "and so there." Well, in size, sure. Here we go. And I love the rabbit's face is like this. "You're not," snapped the rabbit. "I'm better than you." "Pooh," the bear snorted. "Again, I say pooh. You talk mighty big, Mr. Rabbit, that's true. But how can you prove it? Just what can you do?" Thought the rabbit. Now, what can I do? He thought and he thought, and he finally said, "Mr. Bear, do you see those two ears on my head? My ears are so keen and so sharp and so fine, no ears in the world can hear farther than mine." Huh, let's see. "Huh," the bear grunted. He looked at each ear. "You say they're good," said the bear with a sneer, "but how do I know just how far they can hear?" "I'll prove," said the rabbit. "My ears are the best. You sit here and watch me. I'll prove it by test." Then he stiffened his ears so they both stood up high and pointed straight up at the blue of the sky. He stretched his ears open as wide as he could. "Shh, I am listening," he said as he stood. He listened so hard that he started to sweat, and the fur on his ears and his forehead got wet. That's some serious attentive listening. And the computer's doing that again, where it zooms in on my face without me doing anything. It's creepy. Thank you. Back it up. It goes in. For 7 long minutes, he stood and he stirred and he said to the bear, "Do you know what I heard? Do you see that far mountain? It's 90 miles off. There's a fly on that mountain. I just heard him cough. Now, the cough of a fly, sir, is quite hard to hear when he's 90 miles off, but I heard it quite clear. So you see," bragged the rabbit, "it's perfectly true that my ears are the best, so I'm better than you." And how do we know? He could make that up. I don't know what a cough of a fly sounds like. The bear, for a moment, just sulked as he sat, for he knew that his ears couldn't hear things like that. "This rabbit," he thought, "made a fool out of me. Now I've got to prove that I'm better than he." So he said to the rabbit, "You hear pretty well. You can hear 90 miles, but how far can you smell?" "I'm the greatest of smellers," he bragged. "See my nose? This nose on my face is the finest that grows. My nose can smell anything, both far and near. With my nose, I can smell twice as far as you hear." Hmm, I don't know. You can't, snapped the rabbit. I can, growled the bear, and he snuck his big nose way up high in the air. He wiggled that nose, and he sniffed, and he snuffed, and he waggled that nose, and he whiffed, and he wuffed for more than 10 minutes. He snapped and he snuffed, and then he said to a rabbit, I've smelled far enough. That is a pretty good smell illustration. All right, said the rabbit, come on now and tell exactly how far is the smell that you smell. Oh, I'm smelling a very far smell, said the bear, away past that fly on that mountain out there. I'm smelling past many great mountains beyond, 600 miles more to the edge of a pond. Holy moly. I don't know. I'm skeptical. That's a word that means I'm not sure I believe you can smell for 600 miles. Maybe. And way, way out there by the pond you can't see is a very small farm. On the farm is a tree. On the tree is a branch. On the branch is a nest, a very small nest where two tiny eggs rest. Two hummingbird eggs, only half an inch long. But my nose, said the bear, is so wonderfully strong. My nose is so good that I smelled without fail that the egg on the left is a little bit stale. And that is a thing that no rabbit can do. So you see, the bear boasted, I'm better than you. My smeller's so keen that it just can't be beat. Holy mackerel, these two. What's that? Called a voice from way down by his feet. The bear and the rabbit looked down at the sound, and they saw an old worm crawling out of the ground. Now, boys, said the worm, you've been bragging a lot. You both think you're great, but I think you're not. You're not half as good as a fellow like me. You hear and you smell, but how far can you see? Now, I'm here to prove to you big boasting guys that your nose and your ears aren't as good as my eyes. And the little old worm cocked his head to one side, and he opened his eyes, and he opened them wide, and they looked far away with a strange sort of stare, as if they were burning two holes in the air. The eyes of that worm almost popped from his head. He stared half an hour till his eyelids got red. That's enough, growled the bear. Tell the rabbit and me, how far did you look, and just what did you see? This is my favorite picture of this story. He looks like some kind of crazed magician. He would definitely win a staring contest. Well, boys, the worm answered, that look that I took was a look that looked farther than you'll ever looked. I looked across the ocean, way out to Japan, where I can see farther than anyone can. There's no one on earth who has eyesight that's finer. I looked past Japan, then I looked across China. I looked across Egypt and then took a quick glance across the two countries of Holland and France. Then I looked across England and also Brazil. But I didn't stop there. I looked much farther still. That is a big old look. Not to mention the curve of the earth. And I kept right on looking and looking until I looked round the world and right back to this hill. And I saw on this hill, since my eyesight's so keen, the two biggest fools that have ever been seen. And the fools that I saw were none other than you, who seem to have nothing else better to do than sit here and argue who's better than who. Well played, Mr. Worm. Then the little worm gave his head a small jerk, and he dived in his hole and went back to his work. See it? And that concludes the actual stories of Yertle the Turtle and other stories. I hope you enjoy it. Have a great weekend.